Hi, this is Steve from Nothing Ventured, Nothing Gained. And recently, Green Ronin Publishing released a second edition version of one of their wildly popular role-playing games, Fantasy Age. Now, we played Fantasy Age first edition a while back, and we really enjoyed that system. And we were excited about the new concept of a second edition version and see what had changed and see if it was worth our time, worth your time to get into it, or if it wasn't too different from the first edition. Stay tuned. Now, the Fantasy Age system came out of a culmination of when Green Ronin Publishing created the Dragon Age role-playing game, the TTRPG version of the wildly popular Dragon Age video game. And that came out, Dragon Age RPG came out in 2008, and in 2015, Fantasy Age was born. Well, it was available for sale. Born, you get it. And now, fast forward to now, there are a multitude of versions of the Age system, which stands for Adventure Game Engine. So there's Fantasy Age, there's Modern Age, there's Expanse, which is a kind of sci-fi version of it, and there's a multitude of I believe there's also Cthulhu Age or Cthulhu Mythos in there somewhere. And there's a wild amount, there's a variety of different age systems, compatible age systems that Green Ronin publishes and produces. Now, one of the main reasons, there's actually two main reasons. One of the main reasons that we really enjoyed Fantasy Age is that it wasn't as rules heavy as some of the other games we play. A lot of the games we play, like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, but they're not the only two games out there, but those systems tend to be more rules intensive or crunchy than other game systems. And you have game systems that are very rules light, like Index Card RPG, Battle Sauce, Viking Death Squad. And those are very much narratively driven. Even Fate falls into this category, the Fate core engine. And so you have these rules light category, and then you have these really crunchy rules systems. And if you kind of figure, if you look at Fantasy Age, it kind of rides the middle. In my opinion, it kind of rides the middle of it's crunchier than those really rules light systems. But if you compare it to like D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, and you compare it to Pathfinder, first and second edition, it's very much less crunchy than those systems. So it kind of rides this kind of middle line. So if those rules light systems really don't meet your fancy because you guys want a bit more rules intensity, but some of those other game systems kind of like intimidate you for the amount of rules you have to learn, Fantasy Age may be the game for you. And like I said, Fantasy Age recently came out with a second edition. So is the second edition worth it, or should you just go buy the first edition? So that's what we're here to find out. The other thing that we really kind of latched onto, and the one thing that really defines, in my opinion, really defines Fantasy Age, is the stunt system. And Fantasy Age, for those who don't know, is a 3d6 system. Well, it's a d6 system. So all you need is d6s. There's no d20s, there's no d4s, there's no d12s. So one of the advantages of trying to teach someone Fantasy Age is all you need is these. You need two of the same color ones and one different colored one. And we're going to get to why in just a second. But sometimes when you're trying to show someone a role-playing game and you give them a set of dice or you let them borrow a set of polyhedral dice, they go, okay, roll a D4 for me. Oh, what's a D4? It's the pyramid-looking one. Oh, wait, I gotta... And then, roll a D12 for damage or for your hit points since you're playing a barbarian. What's the D12? Oh, it's that weird looking one. Oh, okay. So even though that learning curve generally doesn't take too long, it's still sometimes some things that people might find intimidating. Like, I don't know what all those dice are. I just don't want to be involved. But everyone knows what D6s are. Everyone's played, Monopoly or a variety of other games that if they've seen someone roll D6, they've seen craps. They've seen someone roll a D6. They know what a D6 is. It's nothing that they're not going to be too shocked by. And given the fact that they don't really need to know too many rules, that this may be a better introduction into role-playing for them compared to other systems. So let's get back to that stunt system. What is stunts? So when you're rolling these dice, anytime you're rolling a check, I roll to attack somebody, or I'm having a conversation with an NPC, I'm trying to convince them to give me the information that I need, or I'm trying to cast some magic that requires a die roll. Or maybe we're in an exploration moment and we're casing the castle to see if there's a secret entrance. you roll, anytime you're rolling a check, you roll 3d6. And you say, why does one of them have to be different? Well, when you roll these dice, and you're going to add some numbers to it, and they'll be on your character sheet, and the GM is going to have a target number. It's going to be a number you have to beat to determine whether you're successful or not. So when you roll your dice, you add them up, and then you find out the result. Okay, so I rolled a 10 plus my skill is +2. I have a total of 12. Okay, what is it? And the DM goes, okay, the difficulty was a 10. So you passed. Great. And then whatever I was trying to do succeeds. But if any of those dice have the matching face, meaning I rolled 2 4s and a 2, and that's a 10 plus my 2 for my skill, that's a 12. The fact that I rolled 2 4s means that if I'm successful, my action is going to include some sort of stunt. You can kind of determine this as critting in other systems, or being critically hitting or critically succeeding in other systems. So now I stunned. What happens? What does that mean? So depending on what you're doing, whether you're fighting, casting magic, having a social situation or interaction, or you're doing your exploration activities, will determine which stunt chart, and we're going to get into the stunt charts in a second, what stunt chart that you can pull from. So obviously things in combat, if I'm fighting somebody, versus having a conversation with somebody, I'm not going to have a conversation with somebody and I go, okay, well, I stunted, I'm going to do a mighty blow during my conversation. That doesn't make any sense. So stunts are exceptional things that you accomplish during your action that you went above and beyond because you did roll those doubles. And how many stunt points? Now each stunt ability has a number of points that it costs for you to accomplish it. So obviously the better ones cost more. So that different die, so we have 2 of the same, and we have this different die, whatever value is on this die tells you how many stunt points you get. So if I roll 2 4s on these dice and I roll the 2 on this one, that means I get 2 stunt points. But if I roll the 4 and a 4 on these dice, that means I'm going to get 4 stun points. So it's whatever comes up on that unusual die, the one that's different, which is now you know why you need a different D6. And the stunts can vary from in combat from an extra die of damage to an extra attack, or bonuses on your further turn, your next turn, that you're so psyched up about hitting and getting the advantage over your opponent that your next action, your next turn, when you roll dice, you're going to get a boost, a plus die roll. So the list has pretty extensive amount of things you can do, and those are available to every character, and they're called general stunts. The interesting thing about second edition is they introduced the idea of different classes having their own special stunts that they're allowed to select as they level up. So this wasn't a thing in first edition. So everyone had the same list of stunts. If you were casting magic, if you were having social situation, exploration, and fighting, everyone had pulled from the same list. So eventually things got a little samey. Certain characters figured out, oh, okay, well, this is what I want to do generally a lot of the time. And to be expected, that's most games, where players find the things they like to do, and they do that a lot. In this, as your characters level up, there used to be 3 classes, now there's 4. There's something else we're going to talk about. Yeah, there's the Mage, the Rogue, and the Warrior from first edition, and there's a new class called the Envoy, the social character, that is introduced in second edition. And each one of these classes has their own list of stunts that they're allowed to pick from as they level up. For the most part, it's every other level, so it's every even level, I believe. And they're allowed to pick stunts, and generally, the class-based stunts are better than the ones that you get as a general list. Now, the general list is available to everybody. Any class can attempt them, but the class-specific ones is really where this game starts to shine even more. I really did like the stunt system before. Now I really like the stunt system. Because even then, 2 warriors or 2 rogues or 2 mages can pick wildly different stunts as their character, depending on what they want to accomplish during combat or during spellcasting or during whatever. And yet again, these are going to be above and beyond the normal stunts that they can have access to. So in the moment, if it's better to pick this general stunt that fits the situation better, versus my specific stunt that I just got, depending on what you, like I said, depending on what you were trying to accomplish. That, I believe, elevates this game to a whole nother level. And the cool thing is there are, I think, 3 levels. They're quite high up in level, depending on how high you want to play your game, that there are certain levels that you can pick stunts from other classes, which really gets into the idea of you're really building your own custom characters. One of the reasons why I love Pathfinder 2nd Edition over Dungeons & Dragons, this is not an Edition Wars thing, but it's just like, for me, playing a character, I really like the fact that when I play this character and I make these decisions, the decisions matter and the decisions make me different. So I'm not just like every other warrior. I'm not just like every other rogue. That's my rogue. Those are my decisions. And this Fantasy Age really encompasses that concept as well. The fact that this stunt, your selection of stunts, your selection of talents, your selection of all the different things you're going to lead up to playing your character, makes your character your own. And it's going to be completely different than that other rogue over there, that other warrior over there. The other major change from 1st to 2nd edition Fantasy Age. 1st edition Fantasy Age, classes had specializations, which is something that you would got at 4th level. Once you hit 4th level, you would be able to pick your specialization for your class, which then further defines your class. 4th edition seemed to be so far away. Now I understand their mindset, and of your 1st level character, you don't know what you want to do. By the time you get 4th level, you understand, like, oh, okay, this is what I want to focus my character into, like my rogue into be like the assassin character. I want to focus my warrior to be more of that berserker or that stalwart defender in full plate with a shield. Although I understand that, I do like the fact that they changed the specializations to 1st level instead of 4th level. And they also added in specializations for your ancestries. So you can pick an ancestry specialization to further define your ancestry as your ancestry features start to become more pronounced. And you start leaning into ancestry and heraldristic talents and specializations that like I said, really you further lean into your ancestry. You further lean into your heritage, and like part of your core of your character may come from the fact that you were a dwarf living in the mines, or you were an elf, or you were a lizard folk, or a goblin, or a beastkin. So they really widen out the potential specializations and talents in Fantasy Age. Now, the way Fantasy Age talents or class features work in this game is that each class feature, basically each talent, and there's a variety of talents that you can pick from for your class, and based on all the different factors and when you're allowed to pick things. Talents have 3 levels. They have novice, expert, and master. Now, they changed a little bit of wording from 1st and 2nd edition. That just really just cleaned things up because most people don't use journeyman in their normal language, but people understand novice is the low end, expert's the middle end, and master's the high end. But they really widened out the possible specializations, whether that's part of your class, whether that's a specialization of your class, whether that's a talent or a specialization from your heraldry or ancestry. They really made many more choices that your character can really expand into. Now, the other interesting thing with the magic system in Fantasy Age is similar to other systems we've seen before, like Dragonbane. When you cast magic, it doesn't just happen like other games. Like, you don't just spend a spell slot and your magic just happens. You actually have to make a skill check. Same thing is rolling those 3d6. This is why you can stunt on magic. You roll your 3d6 and you can potentially try to cast your magic. Now, each spell has its own target number. So some spells have a higher target number and some spells have a lower target number, and they all have an inherent cost. And you have a pool of points that you can spend as a magic user. The cool thing is that the mechanic that they introduced in the 2nd edition is that you can actually push spells through. The pushing mechanic is if you failed your roll, so you needed they say the target number was 15 and you rolled a 13, you still pay the full cost of whatever the spell is. Say this cost is 6 points. And then you pay an additional pushing cost for every point that you missed the target number. So in this case, it's 2. So we rolled a 13, we needed a 15, we missed it by 2. We have to add another cost on top of that of +2. And the other thing is, because that you were kind of not successful, you had to really push the effort into the spell to push the spell through. Even if you roll doubles, you don't generate stun points. You don't stunt on a pushed spell. If you choose to let the spell fail, you only have to pay half as many points as whatever the cost is, rounding down, I believe. Oh, rounding up. Sorry, fractions round up, apparently. But yeah, so it really gave the option for the spell. It really widened out the idea of the spellcaster to really like give that option of, do I really need to spend, man, I missed by 5. Like, that's a lot of points. That's like a whole nother spell or two. Do I really want to put that many points in? But is this that important? Yes. And you go crazy. Or, because remember, once you're out of spell points, you're just the person with, you're kind of half a character without any spell points. You're just kind of like, you're running around, maybe you have a weapon, maybe you're obviously going to have other skills and other focuses. But remember, your spellcasting is your main class feature. And the other thing that was in first edition, but just to be a nice reminder, the amount of magic in this game, the magic isn't broken up like at other game systems where it's like, okay, you have arcane, divine, maybe primal, maybe some other, maybe like 3 or 4 different versions of magic. There are 19 different schools of magic, and they each require their own skill for you to be proficient in, and they all have a variety of talents, which basically are spells in this case, that you can pick from, albeit there's less spells in each school, but the schools are wildly different. And it's nice to have these spells where like, oh yeah, well, I cast arcane and you cast divine, and there's a lot of crossover between what we can do. No, there's clear delineations of like air magic versus fire magic versus what are some of the, let's look at all the different talents here. There we go. Yeah, there's Beast Arcana, Cold Arcana, Enchantment Arcana, Mind Arcana, Shadow, Wood Arcana, summon trees and throw them at people. I don't know what they can do, but the variety here. Fate Arcana, you control the fates, which I believe is what I think I picked when we played this the first time. We actually let me manipulate die rolls from other characters and let them succeed when they normally would fail. So yeah, the magic here is very unique. Which is one of the things that I really enjoyed about the spellcasting system here, and even seeing the other players play their characters and seeing the talents that they picked and how unique they are. That is one of the really reasons that I really enjoy the system. But is the second edition necessary? Does it add enough to warrant you buying the book again? If you already have the first edition, or if you're new to Fantasy Age, is this something that you should get into with your group? I think it's a resounding yes on both accounts. If it was just a new class, I'd be like, ugh. I mean, don't get me wrong, the class is cool, and it's the very much social character, the Envoy. But I don't know if that would have been enough. I also don't know if it would have been enough just to make the stunts different, because obviously they had to retool every class to give them these stunts. But then they also added specializations, and they added more of them, and they added specializations for your ancestry, and they cleaned up some of the rules. So it wasn't, they even said in the foreword where they started off just making an update to the rules, almost like akin to like a 3.5 D&D, where they were going to make an update to the base Fantasy Age rules and just come out with that. And then they started looking into more and more of it, and they go, this is more than just a update, because we are fundamentally changing how the classes work and how stunts function. Because, and not how stunts function, stunts work the same way. If you roll doubles, you generate stun points. You spend those stun points on stunts that you can do. But they're adding in a whole bunch of different stunts per each character class. And then letting you, on certain levels, pick other classes' stunts too. So they really had to go in and think and kind of retool these stunts as a whole to make them unique and make them special. And I can't wait to get my hands on whether we run this, or whether Jared runs this, or I run this, or I can't wait to see what all the characters and all the players can do. But on face value, I think that this is highly worth it. Yes, more of this. And yet again, you can also incorporate those other rule systems, expand. If you want to take your fate character, you want to take your Fantasy Age characters and put them on a ship and put them in the space, and you can start introducing expanse stuff. You want to do weird time travel stuff and put them in the modern age, put them in modern age versus a fantasy age. And your fantasy age characters teleport into the modern age characters. You want to throw Cthulhu monsters at them? You throw Cthulhu monsters at them. So I really do like the concepts that are put forth in fantasy age, but that's just one person's opinion. If you've played Fantasy Age before, first or second edition, leave a comment down below and tell me what you thought about it. If you thought I left something else important about second edition, also you can just drop a comment. But this is Steve from Nothing Venture, Nothing Game. May all your die rolls be crits, and may you always roll max damage. See you later. As my tablet goes to sleep again because it is tired.